Welcome to the Perfect Place to Put a Practice podcast. My name is Mike Green from Dr. Demographics. Today we're going to talk about a pretty interesting topic and something that we have so many doctors that come to us to order reports wanting to find out whether relocation of their practice is going to solve the problems they're having. Usually they don't have a lot of patients that are coming through the door, or they have competition that's absolutely crushing them, that's moved in around the corner, and so they're looking at relocation. So today's episode is called Relocate or Revamp, meaning relocating your practice, which sometimes is absolutely justified, or should you really be revamping your marketing strategy or taking a different look at it? My name is Mike Green, like I said. I own Dr. Demographics. We've been in business for 40 plus years now. My dear friend Scott McDonald founded the company in 1983. Over that time, we've done over 10,000 demographic studies. I feel like I've virtually walked every single road in this great country. We've worked with thousands and thousands of doctors over the past 40 years. I joined up with Scott about 10 years ago and have been able to meet many of you, make great friends with many of you, and it's been an awesome experience. So glad to be here. And also, thank you so much for downloading the podcast. We're 300 plus episodes now, and we've been doing this since 2015, I think, so about 10 years. And so many of you come up to us at trade shows and whatnot and say, hey, we listened to the podcast, or this episode helped me here or there. That means the world. Thank you so much for your support. For those of you that are wondering where that's at, you can go to any of wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, whatever, and download all the episodes. Or you can go to simply drdemographics.com/podcast, and we have the video version of all of these episodes there so that you can watch them and also see the video slide deck that goes along with each episode. So love to have you do that. That's where kind of the repository for all of our episodes is at. Again, that's drdemographics.com/podcast. And thank you so much to you dentists out there that have supported my book that's on Amazon, Dental Marketing Mastery. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. And your support means the absolute world to me. Okay, so let's talk about relocation or revamping marketing, specifically when it's justified. So we have, I would say probably on a weekly basis, we'll have a doctor that will track us down, give us a call, email us something saying, hey, I need to move my practice. And usually these are the problems that they mention. Usually, obviously, it's that we just don't have enough new patients walking through the door at this location. Very often it's visibility problems. Maybe they got the practice 5-10 years ago, and the city has changed quite a bit, and so they just don't have the visibility that they want to have for their practice, which is totally understandable. Third most major thing is landlord problems. They've got a landlord that's just a nightmare, making their life miserable, or they're jacking up the rates, or they're trying to squeeze them out, or a variety of different things, and that's causing major issues. Also, sometimes their lease is up, and so they're trying to decide whether they want to sign back up for 3-5 years, however, even longer sometimes. Or maybe they've moved, their personal residence, maybe they've moved across town, and so they want to move closer to that new location, which makes total sense. Or maybe there's just a new hot spot in town, right? Maybe there's a new business district or a new big school, or Costco's built a new facility, something, right, that's drawing the traffic to a different direction. All of those are really important things, and usually it's a combination of those things that we see with practice owners when they call us. And so we go through the process of looking at their existing location, and then looking at their proposed new location and trying to get an idea of what's happening. So I'm going to have 2 quick case studies of doctors that have called us and their situation. Of course, I'll keep all the names confidential, as we do with all of our clients, but a little bit about their situation, and maybe this is your situation as well. So we had a dentist in a mid-sized community in the Midwest. His location was not very visible. It was not off the main drag, but it wasn't really terrible either. Like it was, it was one turn and then there was the parking lot, and so they didn't have big signage right in front of the road, but probably a lot of you have a similar situation with your practice and visibility. Big problem number 2, though, was they just didn't have a lot of patients that were walking through the door, and so their new patient totals were significantly less than what they wanted them to be, but also the trajectory was getting less and less, and that was concerning, of course. Third thing, that there was a new area of town that was being built up, a new business district, and so all of the shiny new buildings and the new offices and stuff were being built over there, and so they wanted to look at that. They did have a new location identified, but it actually wasn't any more visible than their existing location. This was an area that real estate is it's really tight, so the new stuff moves very, very quickly, and so this happened to be available. They came to us in a panic. We were able to turn their report down around in 48 hours so that we can get them some answers. And their location was about 5 minutes away from their existing practice, and so they wanted us to analyze how many patients they may lose if they move. So let me tell you what we found out with this good doctor. So as we did an audit on his existing location, we found out that his Google reviews were pretty average at best. Like he had reviews for sure, and there was a lot of practices that were way lower, but there was quite a few practices that had way more reviews. And in his review profile, he wasn't responding to the reviews. There was a couple stinker reviews in there that were really dragging things down. And it was just very, very average, right? Like just, nothing to write home about, nothing that was going to really generate any excitement for the practice. Definitely on the map, but just it was pretty meh. Like that was all I can really say about their reviews. The second thing is they didn't have a lot of consistency in their message, meaning that their website and their ads and their brochures rather, and their social media, like you wouldn't put it all together. Like it just didn't have a cohesive and consistent message as far as what they were trying to do. Their website was really stale. You could tell that they had it built. It was professional, but didn't pass the thumb test, what way I always call it. And the thumb test is when I can put my thumb over the logo there on the top left of the screen, and then the website looks exactly like 1,000 other dental websites in that state or in the country, right? And so there was nothing unique or special about it. It was just meh, it just was just pretty bland. They were not doing any current direct marketing. They had done some Google ads and some Facebook ads in the past, but they just say, hey, these didn't work, or they just got us junk leads or whatever, and so they didn't keep doing it, and so they weren't doing any direct marketing. And everything that we looked at just was like they were kind of calling it in, and they weren't. There was nothing to make them stand out. And so clearly for this particular doctor, and after we did the analysis, we came back and told the doctor that, hey, the problem probably is not the location. The problem is likely the way that you are promoting and advertising and marketing your office. And so keep that case study number 1 in your mind, as we'll talk about that later. Case study number 2 was, again, another mid-sized community, so about 65,000 people that I think lived in this community. This particular office, this is another dentist, but this could be applied to a veterinarian or an optometrist or a physical therapist or like a lot of different, anything that's a private practice. This particular doctor had landlord trouble. The landlord was just unreasonable, really felt like he was trying to squeeze them out of leaving the building. I don't know if he had other opportunities or what. Always looking to increase any fees or rent or fine them for this or that. Was really locked down when it came to signage. Just would not work with them at all. Just felt like they were working against them, right? Second thing is this doctor, part of his plan, his life plan, his professional plan, was to own real estate. And so there was an opportunity that we did the study on that would give him the opportunity to move his practice into a different location. It was across town. It was kind of a little further than what we would like, but he could move his practice into one of the suites and then rent out. I think there was 3 other bays or 3 other suites that could be rented out. And so it could be a new income opportunity for him. The challenge was that the new proposed location was actually less visible than his current location. And so that created a little bit of problem. And again, the distance was a little far for his current patient profile. Those patients were going to have to travel quite a distance to be able to stay with that office. So there was a fairly large size risk there for the doctor to lose some revenue. So this is what we uncovered as we looked at it. So the lease was up on the existing location, meaning that it certainly could leave, right, without having to break any kind of a contract or anything. We did find that he had excellent loyalty with his patients. And so his chances, as long as he handled it correctly, the chances of those patients following him to the new location was probably pretty high, or at least higher than what it would be in a lot of other circumstances. It was across town, this new location, but it was actually on the same main road. And so this particular town had like one main street essentially, and he was on the one side of town and the proposed area was on the other side of town. And so while it was a further distance than what usually we like, it was a pretty good a good situation because it was on that same road. The fourth thing is that the demographics that we ran for the proposed location actually matched the profile of what he wanted, so the type of people he wanted to treat, better than the demographic profile of his existing office. And so that was a positive because he was going to be able to reach his goals quicker as long as he promoted correctly to those people to be able to have the type of patients and the type of treatments that he wanted to do. And the last thing was his marketing definitely needed improvement, but it wasn't too bad. And part of the reason why I say that was his competitors were really not that great. And so that circumstance, he was definitely maybe a little bit above average, but his competitor, there was nobody in town that was just really dominating. And so there was no flag on the mountain, as like I like to say, because nobody claimed it. And so definitely some opportunities there when it came to marketing. So again, keep those 2 case studies in your mind. So the temptation when things aren't going well is to relocate, to pull up stakes, relocate, change to somewhere else. And usually that's because there's just not enough patients coming through the door, or a lot of times possibly even having increased competition move close by, and they're stealing your patients away. Sometimes it's economic shifts, sometimes it's landlord. But the temptation is pretty strong and very reasonable for you to be considering it. The challenge is, and this is backed up by not only research is done by other companies, but our experience over the last 40 years, is that 70 to 80% of quote unquote location issues are actually marketing related and are not building related. And that's a huge deal. That's a huge problem because of the costs associated with fixing a location problem as opposed to fixing a marketing problem. Here's the challenge. This is the true cost of moving, and a lot of these are hidden costs. And so yes, there's going to be a cost of the building and all that stuff, but usually the financial cost can be anywhere from $150,000 to $500,000 when it comes to the both seen and unseen costs of moving. And that's build outs, that's moving your equipment, that's downtime, that's potentially having to hire new staff because now you are not open close to their home. A variety of things. It could be patient loss. Matter of fact, usually patient loss, you can expect 10% at the very, very best case scenario, all the way to 50% in the worst case. I've even seen it higher sometimes, and it's devastating when you think of your bread and butter, and you all of a sudden you lose 50% of it. it's hard to recoup that cost, and it takes a while to recoup those initial moving costs. Could take years, could take a lifetime, honestly, for you to be able to recoup that, as compared to just solving the true problem that you may be having. Now, again, don't get me wrong. There's definitely reasons to move. I'm not trying to talk you out of moving. There's absolutely reasons that you should move sometimes, but you have to be real about what the costs are going to be. Typically, like I say, 70 to 80% of the time, marketing is actually the real problem. And there's 4 things that almost across the board are usually always the problem. Of course, I'm speaking generally. Everybody has a unique situation, but usually they have a review issue. Either there's not enough of them, or there's a couple stinkers in there, or they're being absolutely dominated by their competition. 87% of patients check reviews before they choose a provider. And for you specialists out there that are thinking, oh, I don't need reviews, I don't need to do any marketing that way, you are absolutely wrong. And the reason you're wrong is because every time that GP hands that patient a referral card, one of your referral cards, do you think they're just going to jump in the car and drive straight over? Does that ever happen? No, not unless there's an absolute emergency. They're going to go home, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look up your office. And let's say you're an endodontist, and they're going to go to that office, and they're either going to find no reviews, or they're going to find maybe some terrible reviews, hopefully some good ones. Keep in mind that usually people only leave a review when they're really, really, really happy, or when they're really, really, really angry, right? And I would say the angry ones are more apt to leave a review than the really happy ones. So if you're not managing that profile, you could find yourself in a situation where you have 10 reviews and 8 of them are just eviscerations of your office. And so do you really think that patient is going to call you? What is the cost of that patient not calling you? You got a great referral from a referral partner, a general dentist, and now they come with your card, but they're not going to call you because they don't want more pain. They don't want financial challenges. They don't want billing problems. They don't want all the things that are in those reviews. So you have to manage your review profile, whether you're a general practitioner or you're a specialist. It doesn't matter. You have to manage that review profile and make it a high priority. Second thing that we see almost every single time is their website just looks stagnant. It's just old. It just feels really stale, or has broken links, or again, doesn't pass the thumb test, meaning that, like, if we covered up the logo, it would look like everybody else's website, right? There's nothing in it that stands out. And that's true for their social media as well. Well, you'll get on and they don't even look like they're in business, right? They look like they've been gone for years because there hasn't been any posts. And again, whether you're a social media person or not, whether you're a website person or not, it doesn't matter, because your patients are. And so you, as a marketer, you have to market to your patients. You're not marketing to yourself. And so you need to make sure that your website, your social media is active, consistent, lively, all of those things. There's a lot of great ways to do that. We won't discuss that here. That's on other episodes that we've put out. Third thing is their referral rates are terrible. They have not built relationships, or maybe they built a lot of really great relationships at one time, but those relationships have aged or retired or gone to somebody else or whatever, and they just haven't refocused on building new referral relationships. And the fourth, very often, and especially in thriving areas, is competition has moved to town. That are younger, faster. Sometimes they have deeper pockets, and they have you on the ropes, and they are wailing on you. They are beating you at every place. They're beating you online. They're beating you with a better staff. They're beating you with a shinier new office. All of the things, right? And so they're allowing the competition to dominate them, and they're forgetting what makes them unique, in that they've been there for usually years. They probably have more experience, but they don't know how to message those things. So those 4 things typically are the basis of what marketing issues most offices have, at least that we've worked with. Here's another case study. So, a veterinarian in Texas, he was planning to relocate his office. In this case, it was about 50 miles away from his existing practice. They figured it was going to cost about $200,000 by the time it was all said and done with equipment and build out and stall. It was a big animal practice, so stalls and barns and all this stuff. And I think that number was really low. I think it was actually going to cost them a lot more because they were going to lose staff. They were going to lose a lot of stuff. We convinced them, or at least we were part of the convincing for them to just hit the pause button for a second and just allow us to help them develop a marketing strategy, find some vendors to implement that marketing strategy, give it 6 months and see what happens. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not trying to sell you any marketing services. We don't do any marketing services. We have a tremendous amount of marketing experience, but I'm not trying to sell you anything here. That's why the non-biased audit is so important, because I'm going to tell you the truth in a marketing report. I'm not going to lie to you. If your website's terrible, I'll tell you your website's terrible. If your SEO company is hosing you, I will tell you that, because I'm not trying to sell you anything. And that was the same thing with this vet. So we got him to hit the pause button, said, hey, let's give it 6 months. They saw a 35% increase over that 6 months in their production. Why? Because of a couple of little tweaks, a few turnings of the dial in their marketing strategy, and it put them in a much better situation to be able to get what they needed to get with their practice. So typically, so if you're going to do a marketing revamp, this is usually the true ROI that we can look at. So typically, if you're opening a new office, or if you are going to revamp your marketing, you're probably going to spend about $10,000 to $30,000 in reality to completely do the revamp. That might be a branding refresh. That could be a new website. That could be maybe you're hiring a social media person that's going to focus on that. Maybe that's a new camera, right? A fancy camera or whatever. Usually is in that range, $10,000 to $30,000, depending. It could be a lot lower, it could be a lot higher, but usually that's the general range to really get that effort to go. Then you're going to spend anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000 typically to maintain that revamped strategy. So that could be Google Ads, that could be a lot of different things, but that number is typically what you should plan on going forward for most practices that we work with. Local SEO, inbound ads, patient retention programs, all great examples of things and levers that you can pull and dials that you can turn to increase the production that you're having in your office, and certainly something you should do and identify as a problem, as a quote-unquote leaky bucket that you're going to do before you're going to incur those $150,000 to $500,000 relocation costs. Now, like I mentioned before, relocation does absolutely make sense in some circumstances. I would say the main one is when you have massive population declines or unfavorable regulations. One that comes to mind was way back when, I can't even remember the year now, probably 20 years ago, during Hurricane Katrina. We saw that whole area around New Orleans change dramatically over a course of about 18 months. We saw a lot of the population go to Houston, so that was a huge thing. We saw a lot of the businesses just board up and quit or completely move. And that was not just in New Orleans. That was across the lake and in Mandeville and a lot of those areas. Those practices ended up doing that. And so when you have a massive population decline, obviously you've got to respond to that. But you also could have really unfavorable regulations that are coming down from the local government. Again, I won't go into that here because we've talked about that ad nauseum the last couple episodes. And so you might want to refer to those. You can go to drdemographics.com/podcast to get those episodes that talk about government regulations. The second thing is, if you just have an absolute nightmare of a landlord, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon, he's not planning on selling the building, your life just might be a lot easier to eat those relocation costs and to get away from that landlord, which may give you a lot of opportunities. So again, you have to weigh the cost associated with that. And the last thing, and it should not be for all of you, but if owning real estate is part of your 15, 20-year plan, and you have an opportunity, that could be absolutely another reason why you may as well relocate, especially in a situation like case study number 2, where you are going to be able to move the office, your practice, into a suite and then have several other suites to rent out. That situation's fantastic. Again, if that's part of your plan, and not everybody wants to be a landlord, and being a landlord is not really that fun of a job. So again, you have to weigh whether you really want to do that. I hope this information was helpful for you. It's valuable information, and it's information that we talk to doctors with every single week. And so I know that many of you may have similar issues. So how can we help at Dr. Demographics? I've referred to the marketing report quite a few times in this episode. The marketing report is a great one for you to be able to see exactly what the demographics are for your existing location or for a proposed location, and then get an honest, true analysis by us with our many, many years of practice marketing experience to give you an honest look at what's happening with your marketing. Again, I have no marketing services to sell you. That's not what we do. We are data and analysts and teachers, and so we're going to stay to that, and we're not going to offer you any marketing services, but we can set you up and tell you the truth of what's happening in your marketing, and then maybe we can help guide you to find the right companies that can help you fulfill those things. We also do the best sites report. We also do the site viability report. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to, and so that's why we have the telephone consultation. You can find all of those at drdemographics.com, and then you just click the demographic reports button, and it will give you a good description of all of those. You can give us a call at 844-704-0499 or email us at support@drdemographics.com. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode. Also, we've been posting a lot of social media content, shorts and whatnot, so check us out. Just type in Dr. Demographics on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok and YouTube and all the places. So anyways, thank you again so much for joining us. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode.